Welcome to the only anime that can make you sad and laugh at the same time and somehow all feel okay about it. This episode might just be the saddest episode of the entire anime up to this point. Episode 3 might have taken the cake as the most exciting, but episode 6 was definitely a whirlwind of really fun scenes, and at the same time, it broke Alpha. You Sid. So guys, if you're not caught up onto season 2 of the Eminence Shadow episode 6, if you guys do not catch up on the Eminence Shadow, inflation will still be killing us. It's actually quite funny, guys. This arc is literally what's happening in real life in terms of just inflation, not so much the counterfeit, but hey, when you print money, you're devaluing our money. So coming off an episode where Gamma gets a different kind of shine, it was more of a laughing matter. Her character development was literally the fact that, you know, she has all this magical power and then she was basically spamming Hadoukens out of a sword. For this episode, though, they teased us with some dry humping, only to emotionally destroy the harem's top. You can't break the woman that literally puts all the other ladies in line. Really though, in this arc, Sid is a menace that must be stopped. So let's start from the beginning of the episode. After the mighty trio of 664, 665, and 666 gets booted off the train, the beginning of the episode, they report to Gamma and Alpha about John Smith being this OP string of destiny. I don't know what that means, but it sounds provocative. You know who speaks unprovoked? 666, formerly known as Princess Rose Oriana, the one girl that killed her dad, that one that thinks that she was in a relationship with Sid, but needs her own personal development to fight for something. I really don't know where her character is going at this point. But Alpha makes a really huge decision here that leads literally how the rest of the episode is going to go. We need to send the Beast Poon. This episode does a really good job of highlighting Alpha, and this is the moment, this is the episode to really peel back the layer of who Alpha is and really show her at her worst. After the opening theme, they go straight into the Beast Poon Delta attacking John Smith. It's a nice short and sweet scene between the two, and John Smith hits her with some condescending lines until she sniffs his ass out. Not his ass literally, but his feet. Then we get some next level fan service, aka dry humping. The Beast Poon just does what the Beast Poon does. Sid ends up telling her what's up. The harem master rules all, so anything he says goes, even over Alpha's, cause your boy's a true Sigma. Now go slaughter Jugga Jugga in the lawless city, and like a good kitty cat, the Beast Poon goes off. And Sid does what he does best and assumes that everything's gonna be okay. And obviously, we all know Sid's judgment is totally not right. Then that takes us to Gamma reporting that the undefeated Beast Poon is no longer undefeated. It's your classic, I made the decision that got someone close to me killed. They even gave us this scene with Alpha having that cliche trope of this passive aggressive anger with her breaking the glass of the window. So the scene starts Alpha's inner reflection of how she's being a little bit inept for the situation, that she might not be quite up to task. So up to this point, she's literally made every decision correctly. And now all of a sudden, now that she's facing John Smith, a lot of things are going wrong. And this is the first really major decision that led to Delta potentially kicking the bucket. And then there's a scene later in the episode, which is the perfect scene. It's the dichotomy between Alexia and Iris. And it's the dichotomy between these two's thought process behind their own personal strength. One is humble and has the self-realization and humbleness to want to become stronger and find different ways. And the other is just too stubborn to admit that she just ain't shit. This is perfect timing in the episode because this is the beginning of Alpha's downfall. This scene is on theme and perfect the same way Iris and Alexia's character development of just not being good enough, just not being strong enough, and even Rose not being strong enough. Now this is shifted to possibly the strongest main side character in Alpha, that she might not just be the one to solve all the problems. So like Rose, Alexia, and Iris, Alpha will soon be humbled by none other than her own master Shadow. Oh yeah, that takes us to the scene with Gaetan finding out that the cult of Diablos blames him for the credit crisis because the cult, they have not taken out all of their money yet, and so because of this credit crisis, their money is stuck and they're gonna lose a lot. Gatan figures out that the cult isn't the one executing their plan, and that is because of John Smith. Before, he was just doing it to take down the corporation. Now he's actually legitimately commanding Garter to find out exactly what the hell John Smith is doing and the location of all this counterfeit money. And by the way, he ends up murdering some NPCs, if that matters to you. And here we have the most hilarious scene of the entire episode. Beta reports to Shadow about how there's this big credit crisis, there's inflation going on, the economy is falling apart, the major corporate alliance is about to default, and Mitsugoshi is not far behind it. As Beta is explaining all this, Shadow is writing down on a piece of paper a bunch of random stuff in different Earthling languages, and Shadow is pretending and acting over the top, showing Beta that he's surprised at everything that's going on, that he's freaking out a little bit. And then Beta drops the haymaker that Delta may be dead. Shadow is obviously confused, but they both say ambiguous things like, she's been sent far away. There's quite a few hilarious lines kind of like this. Beta eventually asks Shadow if he could take care of the John Smith situation, but of course Shadow's like, you know what, I got better things to do. But in the end, Shadow shows Beta what he's been writing on that piece of paper, essentially telling her, hey, if you can figure out and decipher all these things that I wrote on this paper, he'll let her know what's up. So since Shadow won't take care of the John Smith situation, and Alpha sent the Beast Poon to do the dirty work, and then she completely failed, Alpha must take it all on her hands. It is her turn to get her hands dirty. She ends up showing up on the train tracks, and is one of the classic epic scenes to start for a fight. The Eminence and Shadow always storyboards their fights really well. Not every anime is going to be animated really incredibly, like a Madhouse, like a Mappa, or a Ufotable. So it's really important for average to even above average animators to find different cool ways to elevate cool action scenes, to have different perspective shots, to slow down the pacing of the fight. They actually do some of their scenes just a little bit more uniquely compared to some of these other animes. They're kind of like PowerPoint slides. So besides the cool fighting, after Alpha and John Smith come to fisticuffs for a bit, Alpha figures out really quickly that John Smith's fighting style is exactly like Shadow's, and she figures it is Shadow. This is by far the saddest and tear-jerking scene and fight that I had to witness in the show. Every scene up to this point, we always had the feeling of everything's gonna turn out to be okay. Even the cool fight scenes, they're just that. They're entertaining fight scenes. But now, as a viewer, we have more emotional investment than we ever had in this show. We have the main protagonist fighting against his most trusted, reliable, dependable character since the beginning of the series in Alpha. Imagine dedicating your whole life recruiting and training an entire underground organization, mostly by yourself, all the while building a company to help finance the entire organization for this man Shadow to fight this entire Illuminati ass cult just for the dude to say, you ain't it. One other layer to Sid not telling her what he's up to is also not telling her what happened to Delta. Like, that is as emotionally abusive that you can get in this show from Sid's point of view of how much he doesn't realize he's negatively affecting all his loved ones. Not only is Shadow taking down everything Alpha worked for, but she thinks that Delta is dead. This is a totally mind-breaking mind. Just imagine your day one best friend, all of a sudden you find out this whole secret that they've literally betrayed you and undermined everything that you worked for. And all of that you've done is just not enough for him. This is the first time for the entirety of the anime to this point. It's just, you feel totally awful for Alpha, your loved one, your day one. She did all of this for Shadow. And you know what? We all know Shadow means well, that he thinks he's doing the right thing. But this is a turning point for how we all view Sid. Everything that he's done is all ironically become comedic and worked out for him until this point. This is where it's painful what he's doing to Alpha in Shadow Garden. He didn't have to choose this route. But like he said in a couple episodes prior, he thinks what Mitsugoshi and what these other businesses are doing to the citizens is actually bad. So he's trying to create another business in his vision, and he's just gonna rehire Shadow Garden to work for him. That is where the comedic irony from a couple episodes ago felt like, okay, it's just another fun, ironic plot until feelings are involved. Not only the characters are emotionally invested, you, the viewers, emotionally invested into these characters, and now you see a situation that is ironic. Now it works against Sid in a very terrible way. It changes how you view the character in a negative light, and you just see Alpha get Yamcha'd. We don't want Alpha to get Yamcha'd, but that's what Sid did. By the episode's end, we get to see and hear about Gatgan and Yukime's backstory. You have a classic revenge arc from Yukime. They are a part of various Therianthrope clans that are fighting to be the leader of all of these clans. So all of these Therianthrope clans are all fighting against each other. And Yukime and Gatgan, they are a part of different clans of weaker clans. They had a plan where both clans designed an arranged marriage to build this alliance between the clans. So Yukime was promised to Gatgan that they would marry each other, and everything seemed all fine and dandy until Gatgan ran into the Cult of Diablos, and he was enticed with the power that they can grant him with those red pills. And Gatgan ended up killing Yukime's family and village because they wouldn't accept the power that the cult was trying to give to them. And Gatgan's learning lesson in this episode and him as a character is an expression that we all know well: to kill or be killed, to take them out before they take you out. It's a survivalist mentality, and because all of these clans are warring against each other, he feels like he's pushed to the brink, and it's a total societal conundrum that's happened in all civilization. Gatgan feels like he has no other choice. So here you have the Cult of Diablos taking advantage of Gatgan in his situation and the entire clan's misfortune. By the episode's end, John Smith sends Yukime off to presumably meet face to face with Gatgan to take everything from him, the same way that Gatgan's taken everything away from Yukime. Yukime's entire arc, ever since she got taken down by Gatgan, she had to overcome everything since then. She had to become a prostitute. And then from that, she somehow got out of that and she became a part of the Lawless City. And then she worked her way up from the Lawless City to be one of the leaders of the towers. And by accumulating wealth and power, she is going to use all this to focus it on Gatgan and take him down. Through Yukime's revenge, you could see that she's making similar mistakes that Gatgan is going through, all to take him down, while she's doing all these things to hurt and damage other people. But we'll get to that when we get to that in the upcoming episodes. Her character arc and Gatgan's character arc, they're very, very typical arcs, as Yukime is a semi kind of bad guy, but kind of not, because you get the feel for their situations. And Gatgan too, you know, he's just trying to survive. He's been put in a situation where it's like, you know what, we're getting screwed over anyway, so he might as well make the decision ahead of time to take everyone out before they take him out. You get to feel bad for them, for the situations that they were born into. It's not like they chose to be in those situations. So that's an interesting wrinkle to the plot, but ultimately it comes down to Alpha. It comes down to the characters that we care most about as the viewers, and that is whatever Shadow is doing and how that is affecting all the other main characters. So in this point, in this show, in this episode, that has had a tremendous traumatic effect on Alpha, Shadow's most trustworthy ally. So I like to review everything that's happening in the anime up to this point, not what I know is going to happen later on. I'm not saying I do know what's going on, but I love how episodes, they come together to tell a story, to set us up to think about certain things and to perceive how things are going to play out. So to me, this episode was centered around another character filled by their ineptitude going up against the GOAT, Shadow, the most OP, strongest character He is the one that's always displaying this wisdom, but for the first time, the wisdom that he's displaying is all just really about fighting, but not necessarily about, life. Before, between Sid and Alexia, it was more about their viewpoints on life. Now, in Shadow's perspective, he thinks what he's doing is best, and we can all see it as a viewer that it is a huge mistake, and he's traumatizing and hurting his most trusted ally and loved one, the Lady Alpha that's been there from day one, doing everything to help him, and he just missed the mark completely as John Smith. But for a show like this, when you have an OP main character like him, he has to be the one that causes a lot of the corruption. It's fun to have a character like Shadow be the one creating all this drama and creating all the things that are kind of going wrong for the characters. It's all because of him, even though he thinks he's doing the right thing. And I think that's kind of brilliant in a way, because there's a lot of learning lessons behind that. Like, we all think that we're doing the right thing, but at the same time, the world is just in chaos because of it. This show really does have a lot of social commentary in it. I mean, the whole arc is about the economy and inflation and stuff. It's the perfect time in the society that we're in right now. What's the biggest hoopla about the economy of the past year? It literally is inflation. But yeah, I mean, I love this episode because it was just a complete episode for me. Every scene had a moment that really mattered, and it presented a different feel, a different moment. You had kind of a slice of life feel, you have this action drama, and then you have this emotional letdown of, a lot of people's favorite characters that we care a lot about in the show. And not only is she really, really emotionally hurt, it is Shadow being the one that hurt her. And that is a different kind of feel that we have yet to really witness and really muster these emotions out of us. This show just really surprises you in a lot of ways because it's this satirical parody with a lot of situational comedy in it. But now, when the shoes flip and the comedy becomes something actually traumatizing, it's a totally different feel. So yeah, I would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. I really enjoyed this season, and I love the depths of where the Eminence and Shadow can take us. At the same time, it's there to still be funny. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode, and I appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at oldtalkasin.com, and I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.